Here today.
Me too. I first want to say, like, I had told everyone in the mastermind alumni group, I said, hey, like, no pressure, but if you guys want to speak to the women that are really wanting to consider this space, I don't want it to be about Cori. I don't want it to be about Danielle. Of course, we're celebrating Cori's growth because that's part of what, this mastermind is for, is to help you accelerate. But she was like, okay, I'm in. And so I had three alumni like raise their hand immediately and said that they were in for this. So this is our cohort year two alumni. And so I have some testimonials I've shared from year one, but we just wrapped up in July and kind of just started working one-to-one after that, which was a blast. But the mastermind really checks the boxes, you guys, of one-to-one coaching, community, which was a big aspect for Cori and a huge takeaway for her. So we had group coaching, we had roundtable strategy, we had guest experts that came in and poured into our businesses based on the topics that they brought to the table. And then we had our group support voice chat, which is where I feel like year two cohort like thrived and is still thriving now, is you guys are still talking, you're still supporting each other, and it's just been really neat to see. So Cori and I met because of her conference, We Rise Collective or We Rise Conference. She had asked me to speak year one, and ever since then, we've continued to work together. And she knew she wanted to be in a mastermind with women who were like-minded that could really help her business grow and not just do it on her own as an entrepreneur. She'd had some success in Hello Beautiful Social, and then she had We Rise take off, and was kind of struggling to figure out what the forever extension of We Rise look like. And so I'm going to let her introduce herself, but then we're just going to kind of go through some of like what she loved about the mastermind, what were some of the measurable stuff, because I feel like you hear a lot of programs that could be exciting to invest in, but then it's like, do I really know if I'm going to get out of it what I need to? Which is also what we focused on with We Rise, is telling people it's tactical, it's strategic. Like you're going to gain real valuable insights, not just motivation. And so I think it's important for you guys to hear like tangible results too. So Cori did some back research and pulled some things for us today that she's going to share with you. But to kick us off, go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. I'm Corey, and I'm a social media strategist and conference host. And I like to say sometimes I moonlight as a pressure washer because my husband and I own a pressure washing and Christmas light company. Um, really, my business has started a couple years ago now, and I knew that I was looking for growth and to kind of get my life back and just wanted to be intentional and strategic. And if you don't know Danielle, that's like her jam. And so it was an easy yes. And I'm just going to lead off with saying this is the best program I've paid for other masterminds and other group coaching. And this is the most I've ever gotten from any kind of program, and it's a no-brainer, honestly.
Well, thanks for saying that. And I feel like I could tell people it's amazing. It's the best thing that I put out there. But then it's like, is that just her saying that? And it's really not just because of the way it's structured, but because of the women that you're with. And so that's a big part for her. I'd asked her, like, what was the biggest takeaway for you? And you're like, well, even like ideas of things I had going in, like the
Mhm.
expectations I had going in versus like what I actually needed in that this past year in my business. Talk a little bit about how the EAM community played a role in your business this year.
Yeah, so last year kicked my butt. There were so many stressors and so many unexpected things that came up, and it just really felt like kicking, a dog while it's down, or whatever that saying is. And I was just so grateful and so reminded constantly by the others in the mastermind, of like just to keep going, and they just motivated me, and they kept me grounded. And not only that, but they helped me shift the way that I saw myself. And that's something that I will never like forget, the way that they supported me through everything that I was going through. And it just played such a huge role. And I don't know that I would still be doing the things that I'm doing today had it not been for those other ladies. Honestly, it was really a rough season.
Well, and I think, I mean, one, you kept showing up. So we always have to talk about the action that we take and that you did invest in it. And one of the things that I feel like was so neat to see for you was kind of playing behind the scenes. Like you're behind the scenes on social media management, you're behind the scenes, like planning the conference. And as you came into the mastermind, you were going into launch year two, and it looked different because it
Hmm.
was kind of a one-woman show. And what was really neat was seeing how you stepped up as a leader and like the way you facilitated and, sorry, like emceed and introduced everyone and put together the workbooks and told the story for everyone in year two, and then showed up with such consistency, even with everything that was going on. It's not perfect for any of us, right, when things are happening, but like you didn't give up. And that's kind of what you just said was, I felt like I wouldn't be doing these things. But the reality is, like, yes, we got to be there and support you, but like you took the action and did it. But I will say, from as a facilitator of the mastermind and the host, like looking at the chat feed from this year, you guys talked almost every single day, and you didn't just talk about life, you talked about business and vice versa. But it was intentional. Like, hey, I'm getting ready to put the We Rise landing page out. Will you take a look at this? Give me feedback. Hey, this is the email sequences I'm working on. So they were very tactical. But then there
Hmm.
were moments where like you need to be reminded of who you are
Hmm.
when you're trying to step up and accelerate to the next version. Like Elite Accelerator is exactly what we want you to do, is your version of acceleration. But like even going into the We Rise conference for 2025, you're speaking in addition to hosting this. So we thought like everything's on fire and life is happening and it's crazy, but I'm still trucking along. And now let's talk a little bit about like now we had our retreat in July.
Hmm.
No, I think it was late June. We had our retreat. And I remember us sitting in the pool together and we were talking about like what do we want to be known for? And you're like, I want to create a legacy and like I want to like create ripple effects. I want to know I made an impact. You know, those were the conversations that we had. And we'd all shared that in common. And it would have been easy to give up on year two of We Rise. And if you want to share like some of that struggle, I'd love to hear it. And let's talk about a little bit to how the mastermind and how like coaching when things helped you get to where you are February 6th of this year.
Yeah, so there really was a moment that happened pretty early last year where I had to make the decision because some things happened that were out of my control, and it was do I keep going and own it and deal with it and make it the best that I can, or do I say, okay, well, it just wasn't meant to be and fold it up and put my effort somewhere else and I did struggle with that decision a little bit. And ultimately, I decided that We Rise is bigger than me. And knowing the stories that I heard from the women that were there from year one, it wouldn't be right for me to just give up that easily. And so we muddled through and persevered, and it was phenomenal. But on the back end of things, it was very challenging, and you know, it just it, it could have been better. And so knowing that and continuing to work with Danielle afterwards, we took those lessons that I'd learned from EAM and are applying it now. And it's just a huge difference. And from where my mindset was and where the belief in myself was this time last year to where it is now, I'm not even the same person, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And so EAM really helped me get through that. And each of the ladies in the mastermind attended We Rise to Danielle and another member were speakers. And so it was just really beautiful to me to see that level of support too, in and out of just what the EAM structure was.
Yeah, because I remember us having even a conversation like this is something I talk about like really wanting to be in it with my clients is there were times where I was like, Corey, call me because we would be trying to navigate something. I remember having a conversation with Corey on like if you were to give up on We Rise and
Mm-hmm.
not do it, like you woke up tomorrow morning and you removed it from your plate, how would you feel? And you were like, I would be sad. And like and that was like that moment where we like both knew like this is something that we had to persevere for. If it's okay, we can share a little bit of the measurables around your
Yeah.
growth if you want to. I asked her, I was like, this is the things that people feel like they need to hear. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they don't know me, they don't know the space. And so I wanted her to do some research. And it was fun because we got to celebrate this too, like
Yes.
actually knowing our numbers, right? As a revenue strategist, it's important to like know these things. So we had like a whole spreadsheet we've been tracking throughout this launch process, and we've gone through the launch frameworks that I've implemented over the last almost decade in my business. I'm hosting retreats and putting out offers and the masterminds. And we created a similar structure, but what worked for her energy and how she wanted to show up in this season. And now we're getting to see the benefits of that and your consistency. Again, it isn't just the frameworks, but guys, if we have the roadmap, we're so much more likely to get there.
Mhm.
So if you want to share some of your, not just on the conference, but overall some of your measurable stuff from the mastermind, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I'm totally conference minded right now, but so before starting EAM, we had launched the tickets for last year's conference, and those launched in October. And by January, I still had only sold one ticket. And then so we, with Danielle's help and everyone else's, really got serious and started implementing these strategies. And we had about, I think, 15 tickets that we ended up selling, which was great. And the energy in that room. And anyway, I believe that everyone that was meant to be there was there. And so taking that and coming off that, and I decided to change too from hosting it in the summer to hosting it in February. So I had a tighter turnaround time.
Right.
But from uh, last year's conference to this year's conference, we have a 70% retention rate, which I'm pretty sure last before was like single digits. So that was incredible. We had almost a 70% growth in attendance for the conference overall, 180% VIP day growth. Sold out of that multiple times. And then overall, the revenue growth is 190%. So night and day transformation. And it really does come from the frameworks that we set, practicing it, having some of these systems that were built out,
Mhm.
and then just being able to reuse it and buckle down, and the confidence factor there as well, I think has played a huge role too, because I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it with purpose.
That's right. Yeah. And so like I feel like the tactical thing was exciting, especially because you guys have to keep in mind that this isn't like $100 conference. Like this is a higher ticket conference because the value that you're getting from it is hands-on, it's tactical, it's not an inspiration and motivational. And so I told her like there were times where we were looking side to side and being like, well, so and so's like selling all of these tickets. And then I would go and look and be like, okay, well, yes, but you have to remember like selling a higher ticket is more challenging, but it's sometimes the quality over the quantity in this case. And I can only say that because I host Reach Retreat, I host Weekend of Intention, I host smaller, more intimate experiences because I feel like that aligns with the energy output that I have, but also because I feel like those deeper conversations and that connectiveness can happen
Mhm.
on a deeper level. I like big events. I still go to big events, but I knew for your heart, you wanted it to be something where people committed to multiple days of connection together. And she took it to the next level of providing meals so that people could sit around the table and have conversations. The VIP having like real time strategy where they could ask questions and raise their hands, like in a group of like I think we have close to 40 for this one, and the powerful amount of what and not even just like the because they invested more or anything like that, but it's because they're serious about their businesses and they're coming in to be fully invested in learning. And it's not so much like they're just coming in to like have said they've been there or to market or try to sell themselves. Like they're coming to learn. And that was something that Cori said that was really important for her is like she wanted to provide this level of intimacy for attendees. Um, and it's been neat to see how, from me getting to speak last year, getting to see even just from the outside looking in of how these women have partnered with each other and they have
Mhm.
supported each other. And Corey's like, I can't give up on that. Like, I've got to keep going. And now we're seeing like the community pouring into you. And they're like out there advocating for you. And so that's just what's really powerful. You also mentioned like whenever we were talking and kind of about what you wanted to share with them is we talked a little bit about like some clarity around different strategies, which we hit on a little bit, but we also created new offers in your business.
Mhm.
We really dove deeper into how to create more work-life balance, which was really hard in this season for you, which we don't love the word balance. You and I both know, like that's not our jam, but really trying to figure out how to be a mom and prioritize what we value, but also be able to live out our purpose through our businesses and our services. And so it's always kind of an ironing out and figuring out what that looks like. But I do feel like you've done a lot better. At creating those boundaries and being having systems in place. You brought on a VA
Mhm.
to support your business, and that way you weren't the only one doing things when kids are sick or life happens. Because, like you said, that year possessed a lot of unknowns
Mhm.
and refined a lot of your processes. And delegation was a topic that we struggled with to try to figure out because it's hard when you're having something new too. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm creating this new launch program. Like, how do I then delegate it? But I feel like you did a really great job, even just going into this conference. I'm seeing how much different you're handling it than you
Mhm.
did with the conference before. So that's really, really neat. So I feel like those were some really good measurable and tacticals that I think I wanted to share. So, thank you for doing that. And I know it's like sometimes like vulnerable to share those things and like say, hey, it wasn't what I wanted it to be before. But I've been transparent telling people my first retreat, I lost $7,000, you
Mhm.
know, like, but I knew my vision was bigger and I knew I could figure out how to get there. And it was a lot of the women surrounding me. It's community, and which is what Elite Accelerator Mastermind is really about. You can work one to one with me and we can tackle those strategies. But I feel like that y'all all needed each other. And it
Mhm.
was like the perfect environment for everyone's growth that year.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our purpose on coming live was to talk to the woman that's listening and has been considering being an Elite Accelerator Mastermind. And what would you say to her?
I would say that I want to say a few different things, but first and foremost, that this again is the best investment I have made in my business. And it's not just about the ROI or even these incredible like results that I've gotten from it, but what EAM did for me was something I wasn't expecting. And yeah, I'm a businesswoman and I own my business, and so digging into the tactical and coming up with a strategy and all of those were the focus, and I pursued those heavily. But again, it's the women, it's the connections, it's the being seen and supported and celebrated. Um,
Hmm.
because that's what I think you hear it too, is people feel so lonely and no one else gets it, and maybe your friends or your family aren't supporting you. This is a space where you are. And I think that um like it becomes a driving force, I think. And even some fun competitions, right? So Kate was one of our mastermind sisters, and she is an action taker, and let me tell you. And so she would set like this whole long like list of everything she accomplished. And there were a lot of times, whether she knows this or not, I would look at that. I was like, well, if she can do that, I can do this.
That's
And
right.
so, like, you have this motivation that comes outside of you. And again, I've invested in other group programs and worked with other coaches, and the level of support that I got, and being seen and being known, and like the focus on my own business is unlike anything else that I have ever experienced. And so really, if you're on the fence, but you're ready to invest, this is the program that you need to invest in.
Well, and I know like to circle back, like that proximity is power, right? Like in who you're
Mhm.
doing business with and who you're running alongside. Um, it's been neat to see the last 2 years of the evolution of all of our Elite Accelerator alumni because I do believe that there's power in growing together and being challenged in the best of ways. And there's not the competition, but it's the motivation and seeing that like you're equally invested in time, equally invested in money, you're equally invested in your energy in the mastermind. I do create, like, I believe that creates that change. Um, so I know a lot of times when you see masterminds, there's not like the one-to-one component.
Mhm.
How did that play a role for you, like having that one-to-one access versus just having it in the group support?
It was, I think, very critical because it allowed me to focus in on the things that, and you helped me keep on track with what all was going on and just having that clarity and that focus where I knew what my next steps were. And then once we had that and I did the work, then I could take it back out to the mastermind and be like, okay, here's what we did. What are your thoughts on that? On that. So it's that focus and intention and then that pulled back feedback. And I think that that's really where the power comes from.
Yeah, and I think that's like something that I think we don't get as entrepreneurs is that we don't have people actually looking from the outside in, being able to give us that honest
Mhm.
feedback. So I feel like that's super important. I know we had a blast at the retreat, and that's something
Mhm.
that I also wanted to do is to treat. I mean, I think it was your first experience at a
Mhm.
retreat, right? So I wanted to create this in-person connection that I feel like you also don't find a lot in masterminds. And we did ours about halfway through, maybe just a little over the halfway mark. And I gave the option for cohort three now to let them decide that. So,
Mhm.
what would you say, like, how did your relationships maybe shift, or what was your highlight? Like, what was it for you that made the in-person kind of an essential part of the mastermind?
I think it was really just we had spent so many months working together that just being together and still focused on our business and being able to support one another, but just being in person and having the late night talks by the pool. And Krista and I even stayed up extremely late one night and just I don't know. I think it just made the friendship bonds even deeper. And so I really, really did enjoy that.
So, how has it been since you finished the mastermind in July? So, how many months has that been now? Oh my gosh, I can't even count. Close to half a year. I don't even know. July, August, September, December, I don't know. Yeah, God, like 7 months, whatever that looks like. Sure, we're gonna go with that. How has it been like the relationships you formed? Did it just die off? Like, what's it
No.
been like for you?
No, Kate and I are very close and so we get to we chat all the time and then I'm still working with you, still working with Krista and trying to support Billy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still connected and we're still supporting one another and cheering each other on. And if something bad happened or, a hard thing happened,
Season.
yeah. Like I know that they would be there too, and I hope that they know that I would be there for them. So it's not just like, and it was all honestly an adjustment going from like talking every single day, multiple times a day to like crickets. So anytime I see that WhatsApp, I'm like, oh, okay, we're chatting. So
Yeah.
it's just fun to like now we're still in it together and seeing every like the fruits of our labor from that time together and still just supporting one another. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I told them, I'm like, you guys continue to chatter. And so they do. And I feel like it's really neat because I feel like it's like once a week or it'll go quiet for like a week and then you guys pop back in
Mhm.
there. And I just love getting to like see what's going on and stay in the loop on what's happening in your lives and in your business. And you guys have stayed connected through each other's programs, offers. Like Kate's even speaking at your conference this year, which is incredible. And Krista's a sponsor. And Billy spoke last year. And so it's just really neat to see how that all came together. So I always say our motto is, we're better together. And I feel like getting to see just from being the host of these things and looking on the outside in, like every testimonial, every feedback, like you wrote that review without me asking you that I shared yesterday. And I hadn't even seen it till January because I was off in December. And you were just like, this is like the best thing that I've invested in. It's changed my life. And it's, you know, because you're a conference host, like that's why you continue doing We Rise because you saw the output. So it just, I'm grateful for you speaking to the women that are listening to this today. And also I'm grateful like to hear that it is creating impact because we all shared that at the pool that day. Like that's why we show up as business owners. We're heart-centered. We want to create an impact. So whenever I hear that what I'm pouring my heart and soul into and that I'm launching and that I'm putting out into the world is changing lives, it makes it so much more, I wouldn't say easier, but it is easier to continue to show up even when things are hard or they're challenging because you know that it's bigger than you. And that's what you said at the very beginning of this interview. So I just want to say thank you. Thanks for continuing to trust me too. Like I love that we got to continue working together and I'm rooting for you. I consider all of us sisters in business, and it is something you hear, but isn't always true. And I feel like I've seen that time and time again in my spaces. Like you guys are there for each other, and you've
Mhm.
created that sisterhood that is going to be years and years and years of support down the road. So I'm proud of you. Thank you. Do you have anything else you want to end with? Otherwise, we were going to wrap it up.
Yeah, just to thank you for creating a space like this and knowing what it is that we need, even if we don't know it ourselves. And just, I think to whoever's watching and considering, that's the other biggest thing is just be open. Like, I went in thinking, okay, I'm going to do all of these things. And then by the end of it, I did the majority of those things, but what I got was so much bigger than what I anticipated. And so I think it's beautiful that that's the way that it works.
Yes. Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate you. And everyone is going to get to soak in all this goodness. So thanks so much.